Hello, it's Mr. Mahir here, and today we're going to talk about property. More specifically, we're going to answer part 2 of the question for how much money will you need to buy a property. Now, as you may have seen in the previous video, there are actually 4 main financial considerations when buying a property. In this video, we're going to go through the second consideration, which is how much will I be allowed to borrow? So when answering this question, the first thing you should do is hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Now to answer the question of how much money you'll be able to borrow, let's flip the tables and look at it from the perspective of the bank. Let's say you have a couple $1 million and then all of a sudden someone comes up to you and says, hey, you have money. Can I borrow $500,000 to go and buy a property? Would you lend them the money? Your most likely answer would be, it depends. The first thought that mostly has crossed your mind is, will this person pay me back? Because if they don't, then I've just lost $500,000. So now my question would be, what would your criteria be in determining whether or not you'd be willing to lend them money? To help you think about this through, I'll go through a few examples. Let's say person A makes $100,000 and person B makes $200,000. Who would you more likely lend to? Obviously it'd be person B, since it'll be easy for them to pay you back. Okay, pretty easy. So let's go through another example. Let's say both of them make the same amount of money, but person A spends $2,000 a month on living expenses, while person B spends $4,000 a month. Who would you more likely lend to now? Clearly, it would be person A because they will have more money left over to pay you back. Okay, so let's go through another example. So what happens if person A, who makes $100,000, is buying a property on their own, whereas person B is actually going to buy a property with their spouse who also works, and let's say that's person C, such that they both make $100,000 each. In this case, who are you more likely going to lend to? Obviously, you'd choose person B and C simply because overall, they have a higher income, which makes it easy for them to pay you back. But now, let's take this up a notch and let's pretend person A makes $200,000 instead. Would you still pick person B and C? Of course you would. Why? Because if person A loses their job or suddenly stops making an income, then they can no longer pay you back. Whereas in the second case, the probability of both person B and person C losing their jobs is less likely, meaning they're more able to pay you back. So as you can see, there are many criteria that go towards whether or not you're going to lend money to someone or not. This is how the banks see you when it comes to lending money. They have algorithms and lists in place that help them determine how much they'd be willing to lend given your circumstances. Each bank has their own list of criteria, and so you can go to any bank's website and look at their borrowing capacity calculator. You can then enter in your details, to which it'll calculate how much that bank is willing to lend you. Obviously, each bank is different, and so the amounts they'll lend you will also be quite different. But the general rule of thumb is that if you want to maximize the amount that you're allowed to borrow, you should strive to increase your income, lower your expenses, and buy a property with someone else. So to see this all in action, let's go through an example. Let's say I'm making the average graduate income of $60,000 and I jump onto real estate and find this property that I like. Ooh, this looks nice. Let's go for this one. So it's $500,000 and let's pretend that I have enough savings to pay for a 20% deposit. This means that I'll need to borrow $400,000. So now I'm going to check with the banks to see if they'll lend me the money. For this example, let's pretend I go to CommBank and put in my details. Well, poop. They're not going to lend me the money. I could either pick a cheaper property, but I don't know many other properties that are less than $200,000. I guess I'll just have to get a higher income. A couple of years go by, I'm now making $80,000 and my girlfriend and I are getting married. She also makes $80,000 and we're wanting to buy a property together. So here's a property that looks nice.
No, I don't like it.
Okay, so here's a property that looks nice and it comes to $600,000. Well, with a 20% deposit, that means we need to borrow $480,000. We'll jump back on the borrowing calculator and we'll put in our details. And so based off this, they're willing to lend us the money such that they're willing to go up to $1 million. Whoa, calm down there. Just because we can borrow that much money doesn't mean we automatically should go with the most expensivest property, but that's a video for another time. But there you go. That is how to tell if you have the borrowing capacity to purchase a property. Now, this is only the second aspect of the 4 considerations you should think about when purchasing a property. To watch part 1, you can find the link in the description below. And so if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video.